Have you ever felt like something was off in your daily routines but couldn't quite make out what it was? I know that I just had a solid week, maybe more, of feeling completely out of sorts. We were coming off of our time away from spring break, and I was just so unmotivated to start tasks. And then I was struggling to even find the energy to get things done, and it was frustrating. At the same time, I think it's important to note that I did choose to give myself some time and space to sit in the feeling that I needed to take it easy. And that's not easy by any stretch. I like to get things done. And I knew at the same time that if I was having the sense that things needed to slow down, I needed to lean into that. But as the week went on, I eventually got to a point where I knew, like, okay, now I'm just in a funk and I need to shift my approach. I couldn't keep taking it easy. Not to mention, all of my to-dos were now piling up. And then that was causing me anxiety, and that was not worth it. So I took some time to evaluate what was really going on and identified my next right actions that would help get me back on track little by little. I know we all go through these times in our lives where we have so much to do, but things aren't going the way that they should. Whether it's that something throws off our schedule, like sick kids are home, or we're burned out and we can't keep up with all the demands. So I thought it would be helpful to take some time today to share 4 signs that it's time to reassess your busy mom's schedule, along with what those signs are telling you about your approach and how you can do things differently to get back on track. Let's dive into these 4 indicators so that you can pinpoint what's throwing you off so you can course correct quickly before you've been derailed entirely. Your first sign that it's time to reassess your approach is that you aren't managing your time effectively. I get that life with young kids is so unpredictable, and sometimes it just feels easier to roll with that unpredictability. But the thing is, when you lack structure or routine in your life, it can really impact your ability to manage your time effectively, and then you end up feeling more behind than you otherwise would be. So I thought it would be helpful to break down a few examples of what it looks like if you're a mom who isn't managing your time effectively. So hopefully this helps you identify whether this could be an area you want to focus on. You might have difficulty planning ahead, so you're making a lot of last minute decisions, or maybe you procrastinate a lot. So you're challenged with starting tasks when you need to start them. And that ends up leading to a complete backlog of tasks that then need to get completed. Also, if you're not managing your time effectively through planning, you can get yourself into a place where you tend to overcommit, where you think you have more time than you actually do. And that then leads to you being unable to actually keep up with it all and manage your time effectively. It's also easy to get caught up in time wasting. Without a clear routine, it's really easy to waste time on activities that aren't actually important or urgent at all. And that's not to say that you can't have those times in your day where you're focused on the things that really aren't important or urgent. But if you find that you tend to gravitate toward the things that aren't as important on a regular basis, this really can lead to problems with managing your time effectively. And if you have a hard time saying no to other people's requests, again, this leads to overcommitment and your feeling of overwhelm because you end up managing more tasks and responsibilities than you have time for in your day. If this sounds like you, chances are your days are flying by, but you can't pinpoint exactly what you spent your time working on when the day is done. Which means it's time to put some structure in place that helps you make better use of your time that you do have. When it comes to ticking items off your to-do list, you want to make sure that you actually have time left over to be more present as a parent or to even carve out much needed time for yourself. Be sure to check out the link in the show notes to a blog post that I did about the 5 ways to maximize your time if you want some really specific strategies when it comes to managing your time more effectively. Because I know it is so hard to feel like you've got a handle on that one, especially when your kids are so little. In addition to needing to manage your time well, we also want to make sure that you are managing your efforts efficiently. So sign number 2 is that you struggle to get anything done efficiently. So maybe you carve out the time to get things done, but you find that when it comes to actually getting those tasks done, you struggle to check them off your to-do list quickly. So this is how it could be coming up for you in your life as a mom. The first is that you may find that you have a lack of focus. Some of us are really good at setting aside the time to get things done, but when it comes to actually checking things off of our to-do list, we really struggle with getting through those tasks. One of the biggest reasons is that when our children are younger, especially, they tend to interrupt us. And that makes it really hard if you're being frequently interrupted by your children and their needs to actually get things done. I think for a lot of us too, there are just so many things on our to-do list that we tend to jump around from one item to the other. I know that if I leave one room, say to carry the clothes to the washing machine from my bedroom, and I need to go back and make the bed, but I get to the laundry room and I realize that I have a pile of clothes that need to go up to the kids' room. I'm going to take those clothes up to the kids' room, maybe forget to start the laundry, and then go put the kids' clothes away and then find out, oh, wait, they didn't even clean up their toys, and start working on that. And so before you know it, you've completely lost your focus on the original task at hand. And so instead of focusing on one task at a time, we allow ourselves to get interrupted and distracted, which just slows us down even more and also ends up costing us a lot more effort than if we just focused in on one task at a time. So if you're someone who switches between tasks frequently, this is probably impacting your productivity. And when we struggle with our priorities and keeping track of when things need to get done, we often miss important deadlines, whether that's registration for our kids' programs or we are late getting supplies to school. I know I definitely just remembered a few minutes ago that I did not send my daughter with some empty tin cans that she needed for a project at school today. So what do I struggle with? I struggle with getting things done efficiently for sure. So just know that these are inspired by my own real life experiences and things that I'm working through too. If improving productivity is something that you really know you want to work on when it comes to getting things done efficiently, it really helps to set short-term goals for yourself, whether that's just for the 30 minutes ahead of you or the week ahead of you. Creating schedules and using productivity tools, those will all set you up for success in getting things done more efficiently, which in turn is going to free up a lot of energy that you're currently wasting on managing tasks. And you can then in turn use that energy and put it towards relationships or other efforts that really matter the most to you. Sign number 3. Chances are if you aren't managing your time effectively or getting through tasks efficiently, you feel stressed or overwhelmed. A lack of structure or routine can be a huge source of stress when it comes to managing daily tasks. So that can look like trying to keep up with everything that goes hand in hand with parenting, such as feeding the kids, bathing them, entertaining them, being responsible for their learning, making sure that they get to school on time. All of those day-to-day responsibilities are really stressful and overwhelming. And then on top of that, if you are someone who's responsible for keeping up with the housework, that's a lot. Trying to make sure that your home is not only tidy, but also clean, that the clothes are clean for your family, making sure that everyone is well fed. These tasks can pile up so quickly because there's just so many of them. And when we aren't managing that well, it really leads to more stress and overwhelm than any one of us is equipped to take on. It's also really tricky to manage all of the appointments and activities that our family has going on, whether that's doctor's appointments or play dates or school events or extracurricular activities. Without a solid calendar management routine, it's really difficult to manage all of these commitments effectively and will only lead you to more stress and anxiety, especially about missing or overlapping appointments. And then if you are someone who works outside of the home or runs your own business, it's really challenging to maintain a healthy work-life balance. Without a routine or a plan in place, it can be really difficult to set clear boundaries between your work and home life, which really leads to not only feelings of stress, but burnout. If these feelings of stress and overwhelm really resonate with you, I want you to start focusing on how to better manage the stress and overwhelm in your day. You want to find strategies that are going to help you prioritize tasks, delegate responsibilities, and how to take more frequent breaks. Be sure to go check out my blog post, 3 Signs You're Suffering from Mom Burnout, if you're wanting some actionable strategies to help you have a greater sense of balance in your mom life without guilt and overwhelm. It's linked in the show notes for you to check out and has a super helpful downloadable guide with 10 ways to overcome burnout. So be sure to check that out if this is something that you need to work on. I know it's a resource I revisit frequently. And sign number 4, you're just not feeling like yourself. A lot of times when we don't have structure or routine in our lives that set us up for success, we end up self-sacrificing our own well-being, which really impacts our overall health and then in turn our ability to keep up with all of these demands. This might look like your sleeping patterns are super disrupted. Without a clear routine, you probably struggle to maintain regular sleep patterns. This can look like difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up feeling groggy or just exhausted. And when you have to be on first thing in the morning, you are starting the day from such a difficult place. Additionally, you may find that you have poor nutrition. I know that my focus on my own health and well-being through what I eat really took a hit when I had kids. And it's really challenging to maintain a healthy diet. When we don't have a clear plan in place or an effective meal planning strategy, it's really easy to get caught up in a pattern of reaching for unhealthy convenience food or just grabbing whatever's on hand that really isn't balanced. And all of that's going to lead to poor nutrition and potential health problems that only slow you down more. You may also find that you don't have a lot of time for exercise. It's really challenging to fit that into your day-to-day life. But when you decrease your physical activity, it's going to impact your overall health and well-being. And all of this, in addition to your to-do list, just leads to increased stress. So without a way of managing that stress, it's only going to continue to accumulate. And chronic stress can really lead to a range of health problems, including higher blood pressure, heart disease, mental health disorders like anxiety and depression. It's really hard to show up for mom life when you're operating under high levels of stress on a chronic basis. And going back to this idea of self-sacrifice, a lot of us neglect our self-care. If you don't have a good routine that prioritizes taking care of yourself, like meditation or stretching and yoga or taking relaxing baths or even just washing your hair when you feel like you need to, when you neglect to do those things, it really causes us to feel less like ourselves and just more exhausted than we otherwise would. If this resonates with you, I want you to really focus on improving your sleeping habit, like establishing a bedtime routine, limiting screen time before bed, and creating a really comfortable sleep environment that you're eager to get back to and will help bring this back into balance and set yourself up for success in keeping up with the busyness of mom life. Be sure to check out the show notes for a link to an article on my blog that will help you learn exactly how to prioritize your self-care as a busy mom. It'll help make the idea of making time for yourself more approachable and even has a free download that guides you step by step in creating a self-care plan without feeling like you're compromising on how you show up for mom life. So no mom guilt here. So in addition to growing our awareness around, all right, what are some signs that I'm not doing this quite right, that maybe I need to reassess how I'm doing things, our natural next question is, well, what do I do about that? So I wanted to touch a little bit more on what some very practical next steps could be. I think it's really important to remember that Mom Life Handbook is all about simplifying mom life. So we're all about doing things with more intention, not just piling more to-dos onto your already full to-do list. But with that said, sometimes with that intention comes a little bit of effort to come up with a plan after we reflect in order to come up with something that's going to feel really supportive. So routines are one way that you can do that. So I want you to think back on the signs that really stuck out to you the most and what routines you could maybe come up with, really loose routines that'll feel really supportive when it comes to managing your busy mom schedule. And I'll come up with some more specific examples in a moment, but let's just talk through some really basic things you can start with. The first is, let's help you reduce decision fatigue. By having routines in place, you don't have to think so much about, well, what's my next step? What's my next move? Because you have a predictable pattern of behavior in your day. It's going to reduce the number of decisions that you have to make and help minimize that mental fatigue and overwhelm. And when you create structure in a routine, your life is going to feel less chaotic or unpredictable. You're going to have that sense of stability and structure that is really reassuring and will help you manage things more easily. It's also going to make sure that you actually save some time. So when you have a set routine for tasks that you can anticipate, like meal planning, shopping, cleaning, you save time and energy throughout the day. And then I also want you to think about how your routines could help promote good habit. What can you do to establish routines around exercise, meditation, or self-care so that you have these positive habits that are a part of your lifestyle and will have a big impact over time? So that's the goal of what a good routine will help you with. The next trouble, I think where most of us get stuck, is in figuring out how to actually make it possible, how to make it doable. So here are a few tips and strategies to consider. I want you to start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire schedule at once. You will only crash and burn. Instead, try implementing 1 or 2 small routines at a time. That's what I had to do last week. I was like, what is my next right action? As small as it is. For me, it was just my next right action is making a to-do list and prioritizing it. It wasn't even doing the items. It was just getting myself organized. I also want you to think about how you can be flexible. Remember that routines should work for you and your family, so they shouldn't be rigid. They have to be able to adapt and adjust as your family's needs change. I also want you to think about how you can start getting the whole family involved. Routines can be a great way to promote a sense of teamwork in your family and shared responsibility. So involve your partner and kids in creating and implementing routines that are going to work for everyone. And I know that this is a little more structured, but having a planner or a calendar that works for you is really going to set you up for some success. So have some sort of visual representation of your routine that will help you stay on track or feel organized. This is also great for keeping your family on board and clearly communicating the plan to everyone. Again, I want you to remember, Mom Life Handbook is all about bringing a little structure to mom life so you can have more freedom and ease. We're going to dive into this a whole lot more in future episodes, but just keep it in the back of your mind that I promise I'm coming back with more goodness that is going to help you take this even further over time. Coming back to the 4 signs that we talked about before, I want to help you really see how you can spot correct in those areas to set yourself up for the greatest success. If you feel like you aren't making the most of your time, I want you to focus on a routine that's going to help you managing your time. If you feel like your efforts are inefficient, I want you to think about routines that will help you streamline your efforts so they get done more quickly. If you've been feeling stressed and overwhelmed, I want you to start thinking about how can you balance your time and efforts between your to-do list, your tasks that need to get done, everything you have to keep up with in mom life, and the things that will help you feel like you come back to your center, to who you are and your sense of connection to your kids and your partner. And if you have a sense of decreased well-being, I want you to find ways to reprioritize yourself. I promise that if you can come up with a simple routine to make yourself a priority, you will have more energy and capacity to keep up with all of the to-dos that come up every single day in your busy life as a mom. I want you to remember that routines can be a really powerful tool for reducing stress and overwhelm and ultimately helping you feel more in control of your busy day. Your approach doesn't have to be, and quite honestly can't be, rigid, just intentional. And if one of these 4 steps resonated with you, I want you to remember that you can grab the free guide, 5 Productivity Secrets for Busy Moms, at momlifehandbook.com/productivity guide. It's linked in the show notes and will give you really practical tips to give you some quick wins in tackling your hectic mom schedule right away. And remember that mom life is complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Here's to leading with purpose and intention as you simplify mom life in the week ahead.